Hey there everyone, Luke here. Now before I talk about the chapter this week, I just want to say one quick thing. After last week, when I went on that rant about what date it was, but Inagaki actually came out and stated that it's not 5760, so we can lay that all to rest right away. So it was a mistake in the chapter, as the Doctor Stone trivia pointed out, and obviously relayed that information to Inagaki, which he obviously read, he obviously looked at, which is nice. It's nice that the author himself is actually looking at when the fans of the series actually actually spot him making a mistake in the chapter, and not like a trivial mistake like some fan base saw, but like a proper mistake in the chapter, like saying, hey, the date might be a bit off here in terms of the timeline, which is what I love about the Doctor Stone fan base, where where they're more respectful of the mangaka and obviously realise like, oh, he's made like just a little mistake here, we should point it out to him, and he's actually taking that on board and thought, yeah, this doesn't add up here in terms of the timeline, so maybe I should correct that. So good point on Inagaki's part, but for now, let's just jump right into this chapter. Alright, so this will be chapter 216, titled Hello World. They had a perfect opportunity here. This is not me complaining about the time of the chapter. It's just like they had a perfect opportunity here to reference the first opening to Doctor Stone with "Good Morning World." They could have called it "Good Morning World" as like a reference to the first Doctor Stone opening. But anyway, that's just me being a little bit nitpicky there. So the chapter starts off with another rocket blowing up, and perfect opportunity to use the joke that I'd forgotten to use in the last chapter. Houston, we have a problem. Now, if you don't get that reference, because some people will be like, that is kind of weird. Like, why would you include that? Because Xenu's full name is Dr. Houston Winfield. Oh, you don't believe me? You don't believe me? 1 second. Okay, here we go. Volume 18. And right here, there we go. Right there. Xenu Houston Wingfield. There. I know it was strange when I first figured out that name. It's like, why would his parents give him the middle name of a city in the United States? But I digress. I was saying that to the clerk when I got the volume in the store, when I was talking about it, because he was like going on and saying, "Oh, that series is becoming a lot more popular," and I was telling him about this, and it's like, how much more American can you get with Xenu's name? But it would have been a perfect all those rocket failures and everything in the last chapter would have been a perfect opportunity for them to say, "Houston, we have a problem," and for Xenu to turn around and say, "What?" and then Senku go, "Oh yeah, you told me one time your middle name was and sorry about that. That was my phone. I will put it on silent for now. And anyway, going back to it, yeah, Houston, we have a problem. Cena goes, what? And then Senku goes, "Oh yeah, you told me one time your middle name was Houston," and then all the Ishigami Finnish people are like, "What's the middle name?" That would have been a perfect like gag to just come out there and just say, yeah, Sinu's middle name is Houston. But anyway, so going back to this chapter, the rocket's failure, and Senku and Sinu are still working diligently to try and get it actually fixed and up and running. As we see Chrome going, the rocket maths is bad before we cut to a few more. Sometime later, where we see him going, getting to space is a bad challenge. It's tricky even for Senku and Sino, the world's top two rocket scientists. Yeah, at this moment in time, they are probably the two rocket scientists that are revived, which begs the question: why didn't they just revive another rocket scientist as well from JAXA, where the Japanese NASA? Why didn't they just revive another rocket scientist there to kind of work with them? But I digress. He goes on to say, all this trial and error, so many tests, just as many failures over years and years. Now, again, even though it's not the year 5760, I'm still going on the fence of it being 57, 55. Like, this is the year we're in right now, because again, even though it's not 5760, it will there was Cena did still return in the year 57, 53. So we have to keep it at like 57, 55 if we want it to be realistic and see Chalk and Sagaray still alive, because they are still animals, and they are getting on quite a bit in years themselves, and it's only a matter of time. There's only so many years more we can go before they actually bite the dust. We see Suika just slam down some papers on a table and going, our job is to observe and learn everything we can along the way. What led to each failure? What's the solution? Which I like. I like this little moment from Suika. As Pi Jones pointed out, it's making him feel more like a scientist, and more showing how much she's taken in and absorbed, and really how far she has come from the beginning of the series. She's probably the one character that's had the most development over the course of the series, going from someone who could absolutely barely do anything at the beginning of the series to now working on insane rocket calculations. That is an impressive feat, if I do say so myself. But anyway, Chrome goes on and says, but dang, the path of a science user has been this way ever since we met Senku. No joke. It's been a due diligent task, and he perfectly sums it up here. The more we learn, the more we realise how little we know. But gotta admire Chrome's dedication, that he is still going on, and he's still determined. Before we cut to a few days or possibly weeks later, where we see the Senku 7 actually taking off. So they probably did, like, I don't know, four tests in the year 57, 52, 57, 54. 57, 54, and then 3 more tests in the year 57, 55 before they actually got it working. Now, some people were saying to me, like, there's no way that it's only been 2 years. Well, they can build. Well, they're up to a point where they can build and rebuild, like, things that they've already built before, like just an insanely quickly, and with a snap of the fingers. But anyway, I digress. The rocket actually manages to get off here with. Okay, seriously, where's Sinu's marks? Seriously, Boichi, can you just hire someone to make sure that you have the marks on people's faces? Now, I didn't notice that at first. Somebody on the Trivia on the Dr. Stone wiki actually pointed that out, and I was like, oh yeah, he does have the. But seriously, can't you just hire someone to just make sure that you've always got the marks on their faces? But that's just a nitpick there. That's not the main focus. Anyway, the rocket actually is successful here in actually getting the satellite, as Senior calls it, the recon satellite into space, because Crocker goes, the first successful launch. Now we can search for the moon for Y-Man, right? But Senku actually corrects her and says not quite. It's as Senior explains, it's the first one is a simple yet elegant recon satellite to basically give them an idea of, like, okay, what's going on around the Earth, why is it changing everything, as we'll soon see in the chapter itself. Senku explains that even space demands a patient step-by-step approach, which, yes, that is true, but you're going about this way too quickly, Senku, for our liking, in terms of the viewers themselves. As we see the roadmap to getting the manned spacecraft one way, which is rocket, satellite, space telescope. And again brings up the fact that, so it appears, imagine the horror if we had begun with manned crafts, all those failures would have led to so many deaths. Yeah, if you just got skipped from testing to, okay, we'll just build a manned craft right away. Yeah, that would have led to so many deaths. We cut to a few. We cut to sometime later. I should just say sometime later because we don't know when it is. So we cut to sometime later where we see Chrome saying to Suika, right, in the Stone World, all those countless test launches had to use smaller scale rockets. Going bigger would have been unthinkable. Before Suika brings up the fact that the two-way man rocket that we want to make would have to be 5 times bigger than the ones, at least according to size calculation. Okay, so just building the actual spacecraft is actually going to take a little bit longer if we want that spacecraft. And I'm actually going to bring up a theory that I had with Party Jams once we get to the point in the chapter, because there's a point in the chapter which kind of throws not Party, just showing OG's theory out of the window. Basically. Anyway, after getting the actual recon satellite into space, we see that there's been a satellite dish built on top of the Ishigami radio tower. Yeah, a satellite dish where that light actually happened, and it's going to be able to pick up radio waves. Maybe this might be an opportunity for the Wireman to do a counterattack against the Kingdom of Science. We don't know. But anyway, we see the recon satellite actually getting images of the satellite images of the Earth, and as Kwaku's in a store about it, of like, that's what we look like up in space, that's our world, which is probably the first time, which is probably the reaction of anybody who sees that for the first time, like, that's our Earth. Unless you're a flat earther, but then I'm just a globetard. No, seriously, that is a question I've always had. Like, if going off a little bit of a tangent here, but it is related to science, so I'm counting it. If the Earth was flat, how do you explain underground bunkers? How do you explain my bedroom? Because my bedroom is technically underground. How do you explain hills and mountains? You can't say the Earth is flat and then make something that basically makes a part of the Earth unflat, like a hill or a mountain. You can't have that. And also, people who say like, "Oh, I learned about the Earth being flat off the internet." It's like, okay, well, what's the live feed? What's the live feed? What's the live feed from the International Space Station on YouTube about? And they're like, "Oh no, that doesn't count." Like, you can't have it both ways. It's like either the Earth is flat, or either you believe the Earth is flat because of things on the internet, or and you just accept like, oh, there's some people that believe the Earth is round based on images from the internet. Like, you can't have it both ways. Sorry to go off on a bit of a rant here, but it's just something that I'm like, why does that even exist? For a conspiracy because the government wants to control us? Like, I think there are better ways for the government to control us than saying the Earth is round. Anyway, continuing on from that rant that I had there, Rieswe says, we already know from our worldwide voyages that the geography has shifted over 3,700 years. And Senku questions, do these images tell you much? Which Chelsea confirms that they do, and it's some freaky stuff. And Rieswe goes on and says, for the spacecraft related efforts to come, we desire a massive labour force. And Senku agrees that, and crafting an accurate crafting an accurate revised globe is the next step in our big plan to revive all 7 billion people. Rieswe with his leadership skills and Chelsea, the master geographer, are the ultimate tag team. I thought Senku and Tsukasa were the ultimate tag team when they battled Hyoga. But I guess that's not needed right now. And anyway, this is something that Party Germs kind of had a bit of a problem with, but I think that moment there with Senku saying, and crafting an accurate revised globe is our next step in our big plan to revive all 7 billion people, I think that's indicating that this is going to start. I don't think Ryusui is actually traveling all around the places. I just think that this globe is basically them getting information about the Earth itself. So I don't think Ryusui is traveling around the Earth. I think it's just being more like, okay, we know where everyone is in this place. Here's some supplies. Here's some refined food. Go and revive them, America. Go and revive them, Africa. Go and revive them. Go and revive them, India. Go and revive them, Spain. Now Africa is a bit of a problem because we didn't go there. Now I have the same problem. I have the same problem with as him with this. It's a little bit of an issue with the series, as we see the revive globe, and we get various information on them. Yet, which I'm like, yeah, it would have been nice to actually go to these places. And I don't know whether it was Inagaki trying to be like, well, I don't want to repeat myself too much with the story, because going around and just reviving people only to find out like, oh, a bad guy lives there now and we have to deal with them. I feel like it. That's the reason why he probably thought it would have gone too repetitive, or maybe the new editor decided like, hey, we need to be speeding this along, because if we delay building the rocket too much, I think people might lose interest in the series, which that I don't see that happening. So I don't know why he decided to like just skip over all these parts, and it would have been nice to actually see it, but still nice to see it nonetheless. So anyway, the places that they bring up are Yellowstone volcano cataclysm eruptions transform the Galatian Mountains into a lake. Now, on the map, now according to Party Jams, there are lakes in the United States, but not as focused on as this map here. And Chelsea's like, Yellowstone will never be the same, and Yo says, maybe Americans care about that, but I never knew that. I never knew the place, so whatever. Okay, a great gag there. It's like, yeah, maybe Americans care about that place, but I never knew about it, so I don't care. And Chrome's like, dude, have some respect. Just a great gag there to show like, yo being yo. They say that the Panama Canal filled in and turned into marsh and grasslands by the Beaver Warriors, as Shoroji would like to point out. And Ukiyo says, good thing we didn't have to pass through there. Desert spread to the north. Desert spread to the north in South America, and also kind of bring up the Amazon rainforest a little bit more. Again, just freaks out and says not the 21st century but the 58th century. I mean, we knew that, but it's still wild. Yeah, it's still wild that you're in the 58th century, as we get the caption 58th century new and revised globe. So yeah, this is probably just them recalling things. As Senku said, it's not basically directly saying that Ryusui and Chelsea are going to these places off screen. I think it's just the start of this. So maybe we will actually get to see some of these places. Like they said, even though they say it's the last arc in Japan, that can mean the last saga. So it might be still going on for a little bit longer. But the panel that he brings up is the fact that we see Ryusui reviving people, which could potentially mean he is still doing this off screen, but we have no confirmation of that actually happening. It could still just be in Japan that he's still reviving people. But it's weird how it's next to the panel about China, which is the plains of China are wetlands and massive rivers. And yeah, I can see his point. I can see his point here of what's going on here. But this is the part that got us both like, oh great, a bit of nice callback and continuity, even though it's not technically canon. After the petrification, nuclear power plants caused massive damage to the Enferosans, whatever that means. Radiation was rendered harmless after 10 to 100 years of excessive dilution, which was actually brought up in the Byakuya reboot. So nice callback, even though it's not technically canon. The majority of African deserts are now savannas and forests, as Taiju says as he's relaying in on the conversation. Well, that sounds good to me. Not at all. Not all bad. Not all changes are bad. So I guess Taiju is an environmentalist now. Uh, anyway, the last panel is coral reefs added enough land to the continent to be visible by satellite. So I guess Australia's got a little bit more of its continent now. But again, that would be nice to actually see in the series. I would agree that that's one of the ones that we should have seen, considering we went to Australia, as we see. What looks like a farmer and a daughter. Okay, until the Dr. Stone trivia comes out, we have no idea where this actually is. So this could still be in another part of Japan, or it could still be, be in a part of Africa. We just don't know. We just don't know yet. So until the Dr. Stone trivia on Twitter brings it up, we just have no idea. But to me, I just feel like this is just a stepping point for the point where they will actually, where Risu will actually take supplies and be like, go to that place, revive those people. Here's some revived food, as we'll see later in the chapter. Although I'd like to point out here that there are some places that have more lakes now that are visible on the map. So maybe there's more water there than land now. So that's quite an interesting little detail to actually bring up as well. Anyway, we see a panel right here where Ryusui sending supplies is probably receiving supplies or sending supplies to India and Spain via the Perseus Spain and the Perseus India. So I guess he's going to just make that a company like Persia.net or Persia Incorporated when the whole world is revived. So maybe he is just sending supplies and telling like, okay, this is where these need to go, this is where that needs to go. Or Chelsea was actually saying that to them, like, this is where these need to go, so you go to India, you go to Spain, and he's probably doing that in Japan. So that he's probably not going all around the world, because otherwise it would have been like, right, my first step, he would have said, my first step of desire is to go to Russia. He would have said something like that. But anyway, we see the actual space telescope satellite actually lifting off and blasting into space. So they finally got the satellite actually up and running, but they still got a ton of work to do, like actually building the damn spaceship and also building the two-way spaceship and also doing a lot of space training. Like, people have to do space training to know if they're up to the actual task. But anyway, they say space telescope acquired as they're all gathering around like, oh yes, we finally actually get to see the moon here. And this is the point of the chapter where I was itching to get to, as we see Crocker going, haha, the moon's surface is ours to view. I can use my powerful vision to locate Ryman. As Sinu is skeptical of this, and he says, sadly, these images are sent towards raw data. Good vision won't help us here. Before Senku brings up that Kohoko once discovered an oil field by spotting a black blotch in an aerial photo. Her stellar vision is a product of focus and attention to detail. Now that black splotch is gonna play an important point when we get to the end of the chapter. Before Sinu goes on to say, is that so? It's no wonder that Byakuya and the astronauts will produce such exponentially descendants. Again, no idea why he didn't just say elegant descendants. But he goes on to say she might prove quite the asset up in space. There you go, Shonoji. The series is actually throwing a curveball into your theory about the three-man mission by saying that Kohaku might be an asset in space. So, like I said, Kohaku might be one of the people going to space. You have to bring that into consideration here, but also bring this into consideration as we get Suika saying, I guess I'm glad that the search for Y-Man can begin now, but the second that Kohaku spots him, they'll want to launch the one-way rocket, right? As Chrome says, yep, which means we have a deadline. We've got to finish our own mission before then and build a round trip rocket. Before he says, easy said than done. The round trips one is got to be 5 times bigger. And first we've got to test it. Who knows how many times? This could easily take decades. Bad. How do we pull this off? Well, telling Senku and Xenu right now would be appropriate, and this is my theory that they're actually going to build 2 rockets. They're actually going to still build the 2 rockets. They're going to build the 2-way one and the one-way one, and it's gonna, and that way they can have more people actually coming to the moon. So maybe we can get our multiple people space mission, because it would be so much of the service to not have Gen, Kawaku, Suika, and Chrome there alongside Senku, since those 5 are the prominent characters, and also have Ryusui there. You have to have Ryusui there. So those 6 to kind of like, so then you've got 3 men. Well, no, you have 4 men. I was going to say 3 men and 3 women, but yeah, you have 4 men there and 2 women. But it would have been kind of like a reflection on the space team for the International Space Station, which was 6 people. Although in that one there was 3 men, 3 women. So who knows at this point? But I still believe that the 5 main characters of the series have to be going to the moon. Like that would just be a perfect way to cap off the series, especially Chrome and Suika. Like, they're the 2 scientists from Ishigami Village. You have to have them go to space. You have to have them, because it would be such a waste for them to not go to space, to not get the ultimate science dream, basically. We could sometime later, as we see Kawaku observing the satellite images, and Ryusui giving off supplies, and Senku and Xenu still working on their plans. Before we see Kawaku actually spot something on the moon and contact Senku and Xenu to actually have a look at it. As she says, from what I can tell, there's one spot that changes little by little over time, though I cannot identify. And Xenu says, though I cannot identify this anomaly, as a NASA scientist, I can confirm that this is certainly something unnatural on the moon's surface, something truly elegant. Before we get the end of the chapter, which states that they finally found the Y-Man, and Senku says hello to them, and that's where the chapter ends. So, yeah, what is that? What is that? That is just the big, like, big question right now. Like, we've actually found out where the Y-Man is. Maybe from the way it looks like it's on like the curvature of the. It looks like it's on the curvature of the moon, so sort of like on that end, and it may be on the dark side of the moon. So that's probably a way to start. And from the looks of it, if it keeps changing over time, it might be like a storm cloud on the moon that the Y-Man sort of created to kind of like hide where he is, or it might actually be an underground bunker that the Y-Man set up. So like, okay, I'm gonna create this bunker so that nobody can find me. So try and find me on the moon if you dare, and this storm cloud will keep changing over time to kind of mask it or something. Because it looks like something rumbling, because we have the vroom, or maybe that's the satellite actually working. We just don't know. We just don't know what that actually is. So yeah. Pretty big chapter, pretty decent chapter. Although I did like the Michigo Sakura family chapter a little bit more for personal reasons. But anyway, yeah, just that image alone is it is like, I ask so many different questions, like what, when, how, why, man. Yeah. Now the big question is what is this actual thing? How much time do they have left, and will this be the time that Chrome actually says to Senku, hey, we don't want you to go and sacrifice yourself. We want you to build a 2-way space rocket, or maybe they will build the 2. Maybe they'll build the 2 rockets that I mentioned earlier and be able to go off into space. That remains to be seen. And like I said, to not have the 5 main characters on the moon confronting the Y-Men together. As kind of like a testament to the team that Senku's built up, because he's mentored Chrome and Suika in the field of science. So to not have his 2 protégés there by his side to witness this event, that would be kind of like a disservice to their character. And also to not have Kohaku, the first person he met from Ishigami Village, and to have yeah, and to have, yeah, you have to have Gen there as well, and also Ryusui. But to not have that team there as like ultimate team for Senku, it's attacking the Y Man. I just cannot accept that. But maybe that's the way. Maybe that's not the way the series will go. But as we've stated before, the series always subverts our expectations on what's the plan in the on the series as well. Like with the computer, when Senku was like, "Yeah, we're not building a computer," he suddenly shifted to like, "Oh yeah, we're making a computer." So it goes in completely different directions than what we're expecting and what is stayed in the series itself. But those are just my opinions on the chapter, so what did you guys think of them? Let me know, like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz, and this will be Lasherluke signing off. Later, guys.